Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillah, this morning Allah gave us mercy, so we can gather together here, listening to Papa Ismunandar, and then hopefully we're gonna listening other presenters who has like very interesting topics. And this morning, I would like to present my research on involving parents, a study from an Islamic boarding school in Indonesia. Thank you, the MC and the jurors. Well, my name is Dion Kinanto. I'm a fourth-year PhD student from Michigan State University. So, the first is, why am I interested to do the research on parental involvement? The first reason is because the academic, there are so many research that has been proven effectively and economically to improve the academic performance, especially here in the US. And it's really cheap and economical. And it's been proven that if parents engage in student education, it's going to be improve student outcome academically. The second, so we know, especially in Indonesia, we have the kid zaman now phenomenon, which is it's really difficult to control the kid, fighting on the street, they disrespect the teachers, and so forth and so forth. So in Indonesia and other countries, they experience the similar problem, especially in behavior. And the research already proven that by having a good parental engagement, it will have a good outcome in student behavior. And lastly, it will decrease the student dropout, which is really important. And the next question is, why Indonesia? Why not other country? Well, because the study on parental involvement in Indonesia is too low, and so many research is not so many. We don't have like research on parental involvement, but there are several research. They analyze that the parental involvement is too low due to parents think that their role is only from baby until the school age. So when it's come to the school age, it's the responsibility of the teachers. So parents has no responsibility in it. And it used to be in Indonesia, the government only rely on curriculum and teachers. But they forgot that school cannot do it alone. They need to engage, they need to involve parents in order to have a good student performance. And lastly, in 2015, now the government start to realize that, parental involvement, parental education is really important, and they created Directorate of Parenting Education under the Ministry of, was that Anies Baswedan or at that time. But it's only in the Ministry of Education and Culture. Now, why parental involvement is boarding school? Well, because how parent will be involved if the students are living with teachers and they live far away from their parents. Will parents still have role in their children's education? That's why this study, I believe, is going to be important for research or practice, and hopefully it has a good contribution for the Ministry of Religious Affairs, because in the Ministry of Religious Affairs, they do not have yet the so-called Ministry of Parenting Education, Directorate of Parenting Education. So based on that, there are three research questions. The first research question is, how are parents involved in their children's education in Islamic boarding school? in Indonesia? And in what ways does abstain framework apply to parental involvement in Islamic boarding school in Indonesia? And I would like to explain what abstain framework. And last research question is, what family characteristics predict parental involvement in an Islamic boarding school in Indonesia? So as I mentioned before, I use this conceptual framework, and this conceptual framework of parental involvement models has been used widely here in the US. The Secretary of Education has been widely used also in the Europe, and I am really interested to see whether or not this parental involvement framework also can be applied in Indonesian context. However, once again, students in Islamic boarding school, they live closely to teachers, peers, staff, and school principal, but they live far away from the community and the parents. But now, how can the Islamic boarding school use this, or whether or not they apply this parental involvement framework? I use mixed method, both qualitative and quantitative. I interview 7 parents with varied on gender, distance, and socio-economic status. And I interview 6 teachers, varied by gender and major subject. And I also observe both formal activities of parental involvement and informal activities of parental involvement. And the quantitative, I have the survey based on the abstain framework, and I got 79 participants. And where did I do the research? I did it in Berjaya Boarding School, which is pseudonym, in Jambi, Indonesia. When did I do that? May to August 2017. So it's this summer, or last summer. Well, this is the result. So I interview both teachers and parents, and how they define parents, which is interesting. So because of the lack of the time, I just pick one quote from the both teachers and parents, so I cannot perform all the quote. So Mr. Suyat, Mr. Suyat, all the name here are pseudonym. So Mr. Suyat is the school principal, and he mentioned that parents in the boarding school, they define it not only conventional parent as father and mother, but they also define parents as spiritual parents. And so first, as Mr. Suyat said, the first is biological parents as father and mother, and the second is spiritual or knowledge parents. Spiritual or knowledge parents is the teachers is spiritual parents because they deliver the knowledge. So in the boarding school context, teachers, staff are also considered parents. And they also define parents as extended families. Mrs. Jamal, one of the wife of the owner of the school, she mentioned that here in this school, everybody needs to be sincere. If the parents are not sincere sending their kid to the school, the parents is not only father and mother, it includes elder sister, uncle, niece, grandparents, and stuff. They need all to be sincere. If they're not sincere, then the student will not be happy living in the boarding school context. So this is really interesting. Well, parents are not defined as only father and mother. And as I mentioned before, whether or not abstain models can be seen or can be observed in the school context, in Islamic boarding school context. Well, the first model is parenting. So parenting is just sending kids to the school, make sure that they have the nutrition and something like that. And Miss Marnie, one of the teachers, say, yes, I visit my son every 2 weeks. I will bring some foods for him. So every 2 weeks, Miss Marnie visit their children, her children. Communicating, whether or not teachers and parents are communicating, or school and home, do they communicate with each other? And Mrs. Jamal say, I let everyone to call me, including parents. I'm open for parents to ask me questions or to consult about everything. We also let parents visit their son, daughter 2 times a week. So we are very open for parents to communicate with us. So this is really awesome. Because maybe in the daily school, parents will, maybe they will communicate with the teachers when they pick up the report, like the final report. Volunteering. Mrs. Gusrani, one of the teachers, say, the female parents will always came to help cooking if we have a big event. For male parents, they usually help with preparing the tent, cleaning up the schoolyard, and with the parking, etc., etc. So, with all of the sick, we have one which is not observed, which is really difficult for me to prove that decision making is observable. So the school doesn't have the school committee, which is like almost all schools have. Teachers and parents mentioned that parents are not included for decision-making process. And one of the school principals say, due to the distance, so it's difficult for them to include or to engage parents in decision-making. However, in learning at home and collaboration with community, yes, it's so obvious. Collaborating with the community, the school even has the so-called community development. For the grade 12, they need to be sent to the remote area. They need to stay there for 10 days. And in this case, parents are all involved to help their children. And lastly, I also found an interesting finding. Beyond the abstinence model, I found there are 4 kinds of parental involvement models, which is material support, spiritual motivation support, evaluator, and license. So one thing which is stand out for me here is the evaluator. The evaluator means the school engaged parent to come every 3 months. They are allowed to evaluate their own children. So, for example, like this room, all of them are the student, and the parents are invited. One student name called, and parents can ask the questions, and then parents can, decide whether they are happy or not. If they're not happy, then they will mention to the teachers, that maybe for remedial or everything. And this is very interesting, and I don't think the school in the world has this model, ask parents to evaluate their own children in front of their peers and in front of their teachers. So lastly, what family characteristic can predict parental involvement? We have parental income, farmer, number of siblings, and the other variables. So the outcome variable are the 6 models for predicting, and the independent variable are parental income, farmer, number of siblings, parental education, gender, parent type, and parent distance. And with all of these dependent variable, it's parental income, and farmer, and number of siblings. Parental income means the more income you have, the more parental engagement that you will have. And the farmer, if you are a farmer, then you will have less parental engagement. And the more you have siblings at home and at school, this one is number of siblings at home, then you will have most likely a lower parental involvement model. And so this is the last model that I found. So in addition to the black, this is the black, or the abstinence model, and then I add something that I found. with the other color, which is evaluator, educator, liaison, material supporter, and non-material supporter. So this would be, hopefully, will be the recommendation for the parental involvement model in Islamic boarding school. And thank you so much. Is there anything I can do to improve my study? Thank you, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Leon. And then follow up with the questions and answers from
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Epstein models, obviously, but does it only apply to one school? I mean, how do you, can you generalize the result into more, more parental involvement model for other boarding schools, or this result only applies to this one school only?
Thank you so much. Very important questions. Yes, so for now, because I only conducted my research on only one boarding school contact, and the boarding school contact, I would say, this is the best Islamic boarding school in the district of Tebo, Jambi, and I would like to say that this probably not represent all the Islamic boarding school in Indonesia, but with the method that I have, mixed method, qualitative and quantitative, hopefully it will decrease the bias. Having me interview and observing, but I also have the survey result and stuff, so it's going to be balanced the result. So hopefully in the next feature, or after this research, then I will hopefully broaden this research, because I am really interested to do these models not only in Islamic boarding school but also in daily school, because I do believe that we need to have this kind of reform in Indonesian education, because we only focus on teachers, we only focus on curriculum. When we have new Ministry of Education, we have new curriculum. So why don't we try to involve parents? It's going to be cheaper. There's already so many research proven that having a better parental involvement is going to be better academic outcome, behavioral outcome, and better graduation. Why don't we try parental involvement? Why don't we try engaging parents at school? It's going to be much more cheaper than we change the curriculum, much more cheaper than we have the national exam, much more cheaper than we need to have the UKG, Uji Kompetensi Guru, which force the senior teachers or the old teachers to be tested using the computer-based test, which is, for me, it's really difficult for the senior teachers to do so. So I think, yes, this research is, for now, is for apply for only one school context. Thank you.
I have a question. Have you done a research on the community engagement with the improvement of the students' outcome? For example, because they're living in a boarding school, they would probably spend half of their day working with schoolwork, and then they will also have plenty time that they can use, for example, as an extracurricular activities. Making an integrated extracurricular activities that involves the community.
Right.
Have you done that kind of research with this specific Berjaya boarding school?
Right. Very good questions. Very good question. So, yes, Epstein model also say that it's not enough only engaging parents, but we need to also engage the community, and that is also observable in the school. So one thing is the collaboration with the community. So almost, because this is Islamic boarding school, at least they have the so-called pengajian. They have pengajian akbar. They have taklim. They have buka bersama. So these all activities is not designated only for student and parents. And then the owner of the school is also the charismatic leaders. I believe almost all pondok pesantren, the owner of the pondok pesantren, like the charismatic kiai also. So he is very famous in the community, and he mentioned to the community, whenever they invite the community, this school doesn't belong to me. This school belongs to community. So if you want to make this school improve, that you need to come and help us. So yes, the community will come help parents and teachers to cook for the Islamic gathering. And community always come for helping with the donation, which is very important, fundraising and stuff. And then the important part here, the liaison, Mr. Suyat, the school principal, say, also part of our community involvement, we have our community development program. This also I mentioned it before, in which we deploy our 12th grade students to the community for 21 days. I mentioned before 10 days, but here 21 days. We involve parents in this program because we believe parents will be better accepted than we as teachers. We involve community leaders in order to equip our students with the real life skills. So the student actually go to the rural area, they help the community because they have the religious background. So they help the community with the janazah praying. They help the community, the student, the 12th grade student, they help with the khutbah every Jumat. They help with the teaching kindergarten. And these all are school effort to involve the community or to serve the community. And in order to serve the community, the school also involving parents. So it's kind of like beautiful schema that the school has been doing. And this, Mr. Suyat, the school principal, he said that this program was pioneered by this school. And then after he has this program, he mentioned there are some other Islamic boarding schools also follow this kind of program. And the community mentioned in other interview quote, the community mentioned this community development, because community development is like KKN in Indonesia. This community development is more effective, much more effective than the college community development or KKN held by the university. So this means that this program is very, 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 very good, very effective for the Islamic boarding school program. So yes, part of this, even though I only mentioned involving parents, but behind that, we also involve the community.
I think that's all the time we have.
Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.